at the top of the hour. So again, my name is Dave DeBow. It's my pleasure to be introducing our host for tonight, our presenter for tonight, Mr. John Simcoe, with his presentation, How to Make Big Money with Rent-to-Own Even in Declining Markets. Now, I've known John for quite a few years now, and I've had the pleasure of having him at many different events that I've put on. Like I mentioned before, John was one of my early adopters for my original rent-to-own cash on demand program, and he took it, he applied it, he rocked it, he's still rocking it when many others have left. In fact, John has just really become the king of rent-to-own in Canada, if you ask me. In fact, I believe last year alone, just probably in the first quarter of last year, John did more rent-to-own deals in that 3 or 4 month period than I've probably done in my entire career. So he's definitely taken this, he's taken it to the next level. And not only that, he knows how to do rent-to-own in good appreciating markets, which is how we got started in Fort McMurray, which was, you know, just the go times, and everybody's making lots of money and all that kind of good stuff. But then here's the kicker. When Fort McMurray took its famous downturn, John sat down, figured it out, and cracked the code on how to make money in rent-to-own even if the market is declining. So you're in for a real treat tonight with Mr. John Simcoe, learning the ins and outs of rent-to-own real estate investing. I can't think of anybody better suited to teach this to you than John. It's definitely a case of the student surpassing the teacher. I'm just very happy that I might have had some little part in introducing John to the whole concept of rent-to-own in the first place. So you guys, I'm not going to be able to be on the call for the whole time because I've got another engagement. In fact, it's my lady friend, Max. She's graduating from nursing school tonight, so that's a big deal that I'm going to be attending, but I'm leaving you in very good hands with Mr. John Simcoe. Just a reminder, John's going to be flying solo on the presentation, so feel free to type in your questions, but he probably won't be able to look at them until the end of the presentation. Is that fair there, John? Is that fair to say?
I think that is. If I get a chance to check them, I kind of will, but we do have a lot to go through, and I want to teach as much as I can in most basic terms as I can, because when we learn basic things, because that's what I learned at the start, and then just started learning a lot of different basic things, and I've really taken deal planning to a very whole other level, but you have to go slow at first before you can run. So I'm going to try to teach things as simple as possible, but we do have a lot to get through.
All right, very good. So you guys, again, John, thank you very much for being on the call. Everybody, you know, pay close attention to tonight's presentation. You know, turn off the Facebook. Don't be vegging out doing other stuff on the computers. In fact, grab a notebook and a pad and a pen. Take down notes, because John's going to be giving you some actionable things that you can actually start doing. He's going to be doing some exercises with you throughout the presentation to help you really understand what he's talking about. So please pay very close attention. And John, I'm just going to mute myself and I'll let you take it away. Okay, buddy?
Okay. Have a good night, Dave, and congratulations. Celebrate the success. Very
good. I will do. Let's just make sure you've got control of the mouse, okay?
Okay. I do believe I have it. There we go. So now it looks like our technology is going to work. I think we can say see you later, Dave. And some of the things that are going to be important while on this webinar, I really don't do a lot of these webinars. I actually put this one specially together just for you guys. Grab a pen and paper. There's a few points that are worth writing down throughout the presentation, because you'll really be able to understand the process from start to finish, and you'll be able to look at those notes. So it's really important to understand those steps, because after you understand those steps, it's like learning your ABCs. Then you're going to know how to write, and then after that, we can actually take things to another level. We can start composing paragraphs and stories and do some really advanced stuff. But we need to go through the basics first. So I recommend grabbing a pen and paper right now. Take as many notes as you feel are useful, but I will highlight a few areas to write down. So one of the things we're going to talk about is how to make big money with rent to own, and that means even in a declining market. And it's just like Dave said before he left, that I've really exploded in the last couple of years, and that's the time that Fort McMurray took a downturn. And it's also a time when a lot of other companies that do rent to own were saying we're not doing new rent to owns. And I was actually nervous about, buying properties with money partners. I raise a lot of money. We'll talk about that throughout the presentation. But I wanted to figure out some ways to remove a lot of the risks of doing rent to own. And so it kind of had a trickling effect because nobody was able to really sell their homes, but I was there and I actually had a solution that would solve problems, and people flocked to the solution, and businesses completely exploded in the last couple of years. This downturn, I wouldn't say this to anyone in public, but I think I can trust everyone here on the webinar, but this has been the best thing to my business ever. And we'll get into exactly what I did and what I figured out to do that, because I love doing rent-to-owns and I didn't want to stop doing them. So we're going to learn how you're going to be able to make 3 times money during your deals, how you'll be able to get paid money up front. That's something I didn't really know when I started out. But you do need some money to keep the lights on and keep the business expenses getting paid. So you need that upfront money. Of course, there's cash flow in the deals, and there can be big and sometimes smaller checks at closing, but we'll go through a few different deals, and you can see how their setup can really affect what you get and what your true bottom line is. I've been doing rent-to-owns for a long time, and so throughout this presentation, you guys are going to discover some strategies that are going to produce 5 and 8 and sometimes even 10 times the amount of cash flow and the amount of profits than just a typical buy and hold. And this is how you can also get into real estate with no money down. I do use a lot of money partners and I do a blend of different deals, but what's really catapulted things was not having to go raise capital to do real estate deals. It removed one of the elements that's needed to do a deal and really speeded the process up. And we're also going to talk about how to virtually eliminate all your tenant and toilet headaches. And that's one of the reasons that I do deals in other cities, and I have certain cities that I have a stronger presence in, and others where I'm trying to gain some market hold. So there's a huge expansion going on with some of the things that I've created systems that make doing rent to own very easy. And so I'm sending them to every city right now. And we're also going to talk about how to do rent to own in a declining market, because you don't always need to do it in a declining market, but this one way that I've figured out has really been a cornerstone to how I've been able to get all these deals done. So the traditional way when you buy a property now, if you want to let me know in the comments, if you have a rental property already, let me know how many doors you got in the comments, because I had some buy and holds before I learned rent to own, and then I've had buy and holds for the last 12 years, and I still buy them, but most of the time they don't make cash flow the same way as the rent owns. Rent owns just seem to produce far better returns in a very short period of time. With my rent owns, I still do some of this work and take calls from tenants, even though I often dispatch other people to handle them. I still do a lot of customer relations in my business. As things grow, I'm delegating a lot more, but I'm still the guy who gets the furnace call in the middle of the night. I have not completely outsourced that in my life and business, but I don't get that from my rent-to-owns. And I'm looking back at both, and I'm thinking, these tenant headaches, they start to get in the way when you're running around. When you have plans and think you have free time, you don't. So I love getting rid of that with the rent-to-owns because I really don't have problems with them. And the long-term buy and holds can take a long time to actually see some real money in them. I still like them, but I love these rent-owns because they're usually short. I do 2 and 3 year deals most of the time. I've done some shorter than 2 years. And they're just really quick. It's money in, money out. And so short 2-3 year timelines for getting paid is what allowed me to actually quit my job so that I could do rent-own full-time. And you don't always know what's going to happen in real estate. If a market turns flat and plateaus for a while, you don't know if you're going to be able to get out of the market or get out for very much. You might still be paying your mortgage down, but you might not have a very clear exit strategy. You might even have to do a bunch of fix-ups before it's sold if you operate it for a long time, if you don't keep up with it. And often you need a lot of money down. A lot of the time they'll tell you need 20% down, but I'll tell you firsthand that they've stopped giving me 20% down ability. I can still get mortgages at 25% down because I have a successful business and a strong income, and I've been doing this for a long time. For a long time, I would have been the perfect person to go into a rent-own house. But you don't really need all that down payment in a rent-to-own, and you know when you're going to be able to get out of the property. So even though I can still get mortgages, and it's taken me a while to achieve some success to the point where I do qualify now, I still need to put 25% down on every property I buy. So that usually means, it's less leverage and it means more down payment is needed, which is fewer properties at the end of the day. I'm just taking a quick look here. Wow, Rosary's done rent-own for 3 years. 7 doors, 4 doors, 19. We got some experienced people here in real estate. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love seeing it when people take action. So this deal here is actually the very first rent-to-own deal that I ever did. This is the one I did after taking Dave's rent-to-own training. He doesn't offer it anymore. I know he's doing other workshops and other things like that. So Dave's no longer training rent-to-own. And I said to Dave, well, I love teaching this stuff. If people want to listen, I'll talk. And so that's why he's invited me here. But this is the one deal that really changed my life, because I didn't know which real estate strategy I was doing. Buy and hold. I had not raised any capital yet. This deal here actually was the first deal that I used money partners for. And I've gotten better at making even more money than this. But this deal was originally set up as a 2-year deal. It actually closed in 19 months. So I was working my job while I had this deal on the go. I raised the money for it. It wasn't easy. I went through the trenches. The first 50 friends and family all said no and thought I was crazy. Now I get a yes pretty much 99% of the time when I talk to people about doing deals with me. There's more money than deals at this point in time. I can say that about my business, probably because I've spent so much time on these no money deals, and there's just a backlog of capital. But before all that came in my career, I did make this deal where I set this whole deal up in a very short period of time. I found the house one day, and in the afternoon, I bought it or had it under contract. And I already had people for it, so I signed contracts with them and actually put this entire deal together in one day. There was learning and setup before it happened, but it actually happened really easy. And I didn't know everything about upfront money and things like that in deals, but this is how this one worked out. And it had $7,000 up front for me, which was extra money that came from money partners. In this deal, they were willing to give me the cash flow from the house. And in fact, I even got some money at the end of the deal. When the mortgage gets paid down, Fort McMurray was booming, so we priced the house quite a bit higher than we bought it for. And the market was still good when the person bought it. So there was no issues with that. The partners in this deal did very, very well. But they took their money at the end of the deal when it sold, which was really nice. I had a little bit of money to actually really get my business going. Like I use this money to pay for advertising and ink and printing, all that sort of stuff. So it just shows you that even in one deal, you can make $101,000. So the time is actually now, because whether you're in a good market or not, this is the time to be doing rent to own, because you can do it at any point in time. Most people procrastinate all the time. The people who don't, that I see going to seminars all the time, and I like going to seminars, I like learning, I attend webinars, I buy other courses, and it's just a fascination of mine. I always loved learning. But most people procrastinate, and I see the same people going to some, looking for the perfect thing before I can do a deal. And the truth is, you can always do a deal. You just need to know what a good deal is from a bad deal. And the other thing too is technology's made it easier than ever. I did 93 real estate deals last year, and that's about a 3 to 4 day break in between every deal. And that's finding them, getting the money for them if they need money, doing them. But with technology, I've created some systems in my business that I can share with you that have really allowed me to reach out further than ever and do more things in more places. So I believe that the internet is going to be constantly changing, and you're still not outpaced even if you haven't started. In fact, it's now easier than ever before. And rent-own is also a ground floor opportunity because there's not much competition. And it's because rent-own companies traditionally really suck. I just want to say this about the rent-own industry. I'm sure everyone's thinking it. It's kind of a slimy thing. You're doing rent-own on a house, and people sometimes roll their eyes when they hear that's what I do. But I don't want to be a slimy person. A lot of rent-own deals fail. They're only 50-50 success ratio, but mine have been successful 97% of the time. And I work hard to keep my track record really high. So I figured out how to do this in any market, and there's hardly any good competition because people don't really know how to do rent-to-owns properly. There's very few really good rent-to-own training programs out there. And because if you do this, you really don't need too many deals to make enough income to replace a job or to have extra vacations or whatever your actual goal is. And it does take a little bit of setup work, but it can be really short. And if you just give a little push, you can do this too. And I have here made by Canadians for Canadians because everything I've done has been in Canada. I've never done this in the US. I've never really done US deals. I have done other international projects, but here in Canada, it's really rent-to-own that's the bread and butter of everything I do. I was able to create a book. I did that with Dave. It was around the time that he stopped teaching rent-to-own, and I said to Dave, I want to teach it. I would like to offer that. It's more a pleasure of mine than anything. I do charge a little bit when I do teach, but I try and make it very reasonable and offer a lot of value. And so we wrote this book together, and it was Dave's way of kind of saying, handing me the torch and giving me his blessing to teach rent-to-own. I always associate myself with other industry professionals, and I do events and training and other stuff with the people like Stefan Arnio, who you're probably familiar with. I know that Dave is good friends with Stefan, and even Darren Weeks. I've done lots of presentations, had many hours of stage time at his events, and reached a lot of people, and it's really a pleasure to just speak for them. I mean, you don't get paid to do those. It's just, I like doing it. So I'm the president and CEO of my own company, and we've been hiring people like crazy because there's more work in a day than I can do. I've always worked very hard, but now I've learned that to get free time, I need to buy it because there's always stuff going on. But I'm the president of the company, and we usually bring in people, see if they work out. If they're not working out, we let them go right away. And if they are working out, I will give them as much work as they possibly can handle because that's how much things are growing right now. I do volunteer for the Canadian Association of Rent-to-Own Professionals. I've been a director since 2012. Last year in 2016, I became elected as the president. And so what CAROP does is they are a group of rent-to-own people, and so there are other people that do rent-to-own, and they're screened to see if they're doing it ethical. Are they one of the companies that set these up to fail? because when you do that, you can profit and keep the house. It's not fair. You keep the people's deposit. Or are you doing this properly to properly serve your client and ensure them that you've done everything possible, and if they failed, it really is their own fault. And so that they're just an organization. It's a nonprofit. I can tell you by being president, there's not a lot of money in the reserves. You know, it gets used to run the association, but it's a good place to join. If you've already done rent-to-owns, it's carop.ca. I'm working on improving the application process, but if you want to become a member, you can join. And if you're going to do rent-owns, it's a good idea to join. I've been a national speaker. I've spoken in front of several thousand people. I am a best-selling author. Last year, I wanted to do 100 rent-to-own deals. I thought, shoot for the stars, and if you hit the moon, it's good. And you know what? I think I would have done 100 deals had that fire not come through Fort McMurray. It actually took my eye off the ball for a while. I did some deals in other markets, but I was not in my hometown where things are pretty easy for me because I'm really known as the rent-to-own guy. Last month, I did 15% of all the real estate transactions in town. Some months I've done as much as 25% of this whole market. So like the realtors, the people, they all know who I am. And I've trained a lot of people as well. That's why I've recorded some videos and things like that, is just so that I can give back a little bit. I know what it was like to be just starting out, and I have a lot of notes from when I was starting out. I've always been a good student, but I really do like teaching for some reason. It's kind of like giving back and being able to pull someone else up. I've raised over $22 million of private capital, and that's mostly in the last 6 or 7 years, with really the last 3 or 4 being a really sharp rise where things have come easy, and it's from getting a good track record. But I also know what to say when I sit down with someone. I know how to explain deals in simple English, and I know how to read people. And if it's a good idea for them and I want to work with them, I'll use their money. And so at the very beginning, before I did all those things, my very first business was I had a Taekwondo club. That's just me at the first location. We quadrupled in size later on. And I ran that for 5 years and maybe learned a little bit about leadership. I'm having to use those skills now as I hire more people. I studied a lot. And so this is going back about 12 years. I started by buying books, and I read a lot of different books, and they were pretty good. And I finally decided to fork out some money and take an actual real estate course and study it. I took notes. I reviewed them. I studied them. I learned the markets. And I went out and I just took action. I decided if I was going to buy a course and spend money on it, I know that the cost of the course is probably small compared to the money I could make, and I need to get a return on the money I'm spending on the course. So I felt compelled to take a lot of action and do what I was learning. And I even at one point, before I knew how to raise money, changed my whole entire life and moved to Fort McMurray just to work in the oil sands at a high-paying job because I thought I needed my own money for properties. And the whole time I was working in the oil sands, I did buy a lot of rent-to-own a lot of buy-and-hold deals, but and I didn't really know the rent-to-own as much until I found Dave's course, and I bought it because Dave was a good guy to learn from. So one of the things before I had moved here, I went to the University of Manitoba, and I went to environmental design, which is really planning and it's architecture. And so this is one of the projects that I did in my late 20s, just when I was starting to raise capital. And it was a pretty big project. It was something I did in Mexico on a little island called Isla Mujeres. And so this planning training that I got, I think, is really crucial because it's kind of my unfair advantage. I think it's allowed me to be able to juggle multiple deals and move them along every step along the way. And by doing that with a good plan, things have worked out. So that was an actual resort in Mexico, and I had it built. I sold it last summer, so that was the end of that project. People were very happy with me with it. It took some time It was about a 4-year project at the end of the day, from build to getting it working and then selling it as a working business. So here's some of the finished product of what it was like. There was 33 units, and it just was a really cool project I thought I'd share with you guys. And I do use money partners for a few other projects like that. I don't do a lot of these really big developments. I might do a couple because I find them interesting, but it really is rent to own that I do like at least 70% or more of the time. Other things that have come along the way is I've won some awards for raising capital. I've won rent to own awards. I've been put in the Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine several times. I'm going to be the cover story in their magazine in the July-August issue, so you'll be able to see that. It's actually, I told them I would write a rent-to-own strategy for them. They asked me to write an article, and they said, someone else is already writing a rent-to-own strategy. We don't really need an article. And I said, well, I do a few other deals too. Rent-to-own's not everything for me. How would I write an article about another one? Because I didn't want to lose a chance for some free publicity. I didn't pay to get in the magazine. They asked me to write. And so I have a totally different strategy coming out in that issue. So you guys can watch for that on newsstands. And this picture here with the cash flow board game is actually in Robert Kiyosaki's office. And I actually do own a business with Robert Kiyosaki, and it does quite well. We did that several years ago, but I've met the man himself. And I've been running a cash flow game night in Fort McMurray for the last 9 years. And it's constantly growing, and it's a place where I meet new people, and we're going to talk a little bit later about why it might be a good idea to go to a cash flow game to meet the right people, and there's a reason. It's more than just playing the game. People play Cash Flow 101 just like they treat their money in real life. So here's a tip. You can write this down. Play Cash Flow 101. Meetup.com is a place where you can find local cash flow clubs that are nearby you. If there aren't any nearby you, this is a fantastic opportunity to start one. All you need is a couple game boards, and you can go with it. You probably even have some friends. If you got properties already, you probably played cash flow, and you could probably even borrow a couple copies of the game or just go buy them. But people treat their money just like real life. If they hide money under the game board, like some people do in Monopoly, it means they probably have more hidden money. If you want to do a deal in real life with them, and they tell you they have, I have $20,000, you know what? I know they're lying. I know they have more than that. They just don't want to say it. I don't call them on it, but I know that if I tell them my deal needs $40,000, could they come up with just some more? They might have it, so I won't need more than one person. But that's why you might want to do it. So getting my first property at age 23 and working hard at age 26 and 27 is when I really started to raise capital and do more deals that way. I was able to get my passive income greater than my expenses. And this is actually a picture of the cake that I brought to work. People go, like I had a nice 6-figure a year, making close to $250,000 a year in the oil sands. Not everyone has that, but you don't need your own money to get ahead. I didn't know that at the time. I would have done things differently, but I was able to quit a very high-paying job at the age of 30 and technically call myself financially free. I didn't tell my coworkers, so some of them did not understand what it was, but I said all those crazy things about properties I was talking about for all those years. Well, I did it, and I'm leaving. It's my last day. Goodbye. And so life is actually pretty good right now. I'm always super happy, and things have just been working out. I bought my dream car, which was this Porsche when I was 26, and I bought this other car at the bottom. I have a summer sports car and a winter sports car. I have my Toyota, and if you want to get me off topic, talk to me about cars. It's the hobby I have. I'm a pretty normal guy. I mean, the cars kind of look fancy and stuff sometimes, but I really just like going to the beach and having fires in the backyard, having friends over and barbecues, just very much a normal guy. The success of the last couple of years was not something I really anticipated. So I just want you guys to know that no matter where you're starting, you can get there. So this was something really nice that Dave said about me, is he said that when it comes to rent to own, John definitely knows his stuff. As I've said at my events numerous times, I think John is one of the best professional real estate investors in Canada. And I've actually joint ventured with Dave on several opportunities, and Dave will vouch for me and say I'm a man of integrity. I honor my word, and you know what? I would say Dave honors his word too. Dave is an excellent man as well. But the one difference that I always notice between the people who couldn't get where they wanted to be and who did is the ones who actually took action. So if you actually have some action steps or a bit of a plan, you can actually perform whatever you're trying to accomplish. Whether you're trying to learn salsa dancing, which I was trying to do recently, still getting better. I mean, I still sometimes step on my 2 left feet, but I'm still going and I get better every time. And the same thing with real estate investing is you can take courses, you can buy courses, you can play cash flow 101 to get sharper and better. And if you have just a very logical step-by-step plan, every day I just push my deals to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. Do the people need to see the house? Do we have to sign papers? And we just go to the next step, the next step, the next step. And before you know it, there's another deal ready, and there's another one ready, and there's another deal ready. And when I do all the work myself right now, I've been able to do deals in 5 to 8 hours over the last while. So if you think about those 93 deals, that's really 5 to 8 hours of work every 3 or 4 days. So I know I used to work really, really hard, and I still do, but that's not too bad. That's a deal every 3 or 4 days, and it's very achievable. I've even figured out how to cut down deals to 1 to 2 hours time when I work with other people. And that's one of the really cool things, because now I could do a couple deals in a day, which is just mind-boggling. And I do believe it's possible. So that's the path I'm headed on. And I'm excited that you guys are here to be able to hear a little bit about it. So I do these presentations. I try and get around. I do travel around. I like doing these presentations because I really like meeting like-minded people and people who are go-getters. And it's really by either attending an event or speaking at events. I like speaking at it because I can at least write the travel off, and I do love to adventure around. So some of the guys who I do deals with and that are mentors of mine are like Paul Blacquier. You guys are probably familiar with him. He does RRSP mortgages. Excellent, excellent guy. Ken McElroy is at the bottom left. I can't remember if Ken has 10 or 15,000 doors, but he's big into apartment buildings, and he just thinks on a whole other level. And I know where Ken lives. I can call him. I have his personal phone number, so Ken will take my call, and that's really cool to be able to ask people when you're in a jam or you don't know what to do next. Having a strong network is really valuable. So write this down on your sheet. Your network equals your net worth. I'm just going to share with you how you can expand your network as well. And at the bottom right, it's just me at one of the trade shows, just with one of my booths. So I'll do these. This one at the top left, that was a presentation that was done in front of about 500 people. So I get invited around to do these just because I've been raising so much money and doing so many deals, and things have been working out because I'm just doing what I studied, and I'm really careful. I really don't like to take risks, even though I have a lot of places on the go. I put these workshops on every once in a while. Actually, they're pretty rare. I hardly do them, but I'm starting to get asked more and more to do them again. And I'll even record videos. So there's like some behind the scenes at the bottom of here. So I try and do that to give back and share my knowledge. And that's what I do in the other days of the week when I'm not making deals. And I find when I meet people, because if I go back to a place a year later or a year and a half later, or whenever I'm there, I find that most people don't actually do something from the last visit to the next visit. And I find that's usually because they have no time. That's a very common excuse. No money. I'll tell you guys right now, when you read that Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine, it's a real deal that I did, and it's a way to be able to buy properties with pretty much none of your own money. I bought 5 places in a row on one street, and am able to make $90,000 a year passively off it. I still have renters in it and get the odd call, but that'll be outsourced really soon. And my life will become easier with maintenance because other people will be doing it more full-time than me. And so you really don't need money. I can do deals with $2,000 or $6,000. And sometimes I do deals with absolutely no money and actually make money at the very start of the deal. And I think that's really important. So you can overcome that if you're going through that as well. Also having guidance, having the right mentor. I really didn't do many deals just by reading books. I started doing better deals when I started actually getting courses that had really step-by-step details. And so if I want help when I get stuck, I have a huge network and mentors, that some that I pay for, some that are friends of mine, and I know who to call. And some people also say that it might work for someone else, but not for them. But I grew up in a small town of 3,000 people in a farming community in Manitoba. And I have big hopes and dreams. And I know that if you follow the steps in the majority of courses out there, if they're a good course, things will work out. And there can be too much competition, but I can tell you guys by doing a few simple things that you can provide a lot of value and be the go-to person. And it can work in any area. I've just proven it where this down market, people are going to be moving to down markets when they learn this, because the hottest and freshest deals are where there's motivated sellers. And those areas are great, but you can also make great money doing rent to own the more traditional ways in rising markets. We're going to cover that in detail as well. And some people are scared, and I've got ways where you're taking virtually no risk to do these deals. Especially if you have no money in the deal, you have no risk. So we're going to cover all those. Because I believe in perseverance. It's one of the things I learned in martial arts, and I will figure out a way. So I did create a rent-to-own course to be able to teach a little bit. So I will share some details about that and give you guys a little bit of knowledge of what it's about as well. So it's good to keep that in mind. So this is some 5 steps. And so we're going to go through them briefly, and I'll cover them in a little more detail. So you want to write the 5 steps down, but maybe just write the first one down and then write the next one afterwards when we're going through it in detail so it makes sense on your page. So the first step is to attract rent-to-own buyers. Write that one down, 1 dot, attract rent-to-own buyers. The next one is you got to screen them, and you actually do get a little bit of money up front. Step 3 is you can get the property under contract, and that means a couple of things. There's different ways that you're going to get it under contract if the market is appreciating and it's moving upward, and you're going to do it differently in a down market. That's really one of the key things for why Dave invited me on this webinar to share this with you guys, is just how those little differences in how you set it up under contract are going to make all the difference. You need to be able to get your client qualified, but you're also going to make some even more upfront money. You get bigger amounts, and you get to start getting cash flow. And of course, after a few years, there is a bigger cash out. So this is exactly the process. We do marketing and attract clients. I'll show you a few ways we're going to do that. We pre-screen them because you can't work with everyone. And I firmly believe there's a few reasons why most of my deals have worked out. And one of the biggest ones is the person that's in the house makes all the difference. The person that's in the house, the success depends on them following the program. So you want to be careful who you work with. You're going to get the property, and you can do that in a number of different ways, sometimes with money, sometimes with no money, and we will cover that. After that, you put the client in the property, and it's all about helping them. And of course, there are checks throughout the way, and that's always fun. I love the closing checks. Right now, I have a ton of deals that I set up 2 and 3 years ago, and they're all starting to go through. And I've already made this upfront money and received cash flow the whole time. And the final step is so easy, and the pay is so much bigger at the end of these deals. I'll show you in a few examples. But I get excited for that. And it's kind of hard to believe that these big checks are just lined up and just waiting for you to help the client finish the program. Big, big paydays. Even in my first one, that's why I started doing more, is because my first one made over 100 grand. And I used other people's money for it. So in step one, you're going to want to attract the people. So you're going to need to have a very good website. I'll share mine with you guys. I do have lionopportunities.com, and that's kind of a more generic website. I think it shows too many things. I'm in the process of redoing it, but I have another one that's only for rent to own, and we're currently ranking it in Google to make it #1 in Canada, because I believe my system is good enough to work everywhere and not need any money partners, that I can do these deals in very short periods of time with my system that's on the go. And that's just something that I developed after taking Dave's course years later. So you get powerful lead generation. My website even sorts my clients based on how good they are. So I can work with the best people, and it just alerts me. So some of that's done with online advertising. We do Facebook ads. We do Kijiji ads in different cities, newspaper ads. Newspaper ads really can work. There's some good tricks for that. And of course, the right business cards and tear tab signs. Most people don't put enough thought into their business cards, and other people's business cards really suck. And that's the other way that you can get better than your competition, is just by looking better, by being just that much more professional. And vehicle signage is a big one. I got friends in other cities that drive around with my magnets on their cars. And I'm so thankful, and I will definitely send them a case of beer and other things like that when we do deals. So for them, they love it. Does anyone have any questions about step one? Real quick. So cars. So I see a question here. Do you mainly do tenant first deals or property first? I am doing a whole mix of them. We're going to get to that in step 3. So Claude, I am going to cover that. Cars, I love cars. I've had over 50. Well, I'd love to get to know you more, Rob, when it's not working time. But when it is working time, I have to cut myself off about that, because I love talking about them. How do you deal in this crazy GTA overpriced market? You know, I did over 5 deals in the GTA area last year alone, and that's a few other things as well. I'm with a partner, and we've created over $500,000 in those 5 deals, and we're already starting to receive money from them that were done just over a year ago. So you can totally do this in the GTA area. I'm there, but there's a lot of competition. It's going to take me a while to become #1. So I'm going to continue with the presentation. If you have a question, type it in, and I will get to it. So here's some examples of the marketing that I use. I use this renting blows. A friend of mine in the GTA area was frustrated with how high prices were. Places were like 300 grand, and there were 600 grand. Now they're like 800 and closer to $1 million. And it's really hard to find like a house. And so he had still been renting the whole time. And I went to visit him. He goes, "Brand, renting blows." I said, "Oh, geez, that's perfect. I'm going to use that on all my ads." So that's one. This isn't a picture of the vehicle signage. This is not my truck, but it's a friend that puts it on. I put them on the front doors and on the back, if at all possible. At streetlights, when you're stopped, people sometimes will write them down or take a picture or chase you down. The other image was just a Facebook ad. I think it's funny. Girl falling into a washing machine. Wouldn't you rather own your own place? Here's another real estate deal. And I don't have a fully finished photo for this, because this is a deal that's currently ongoing, but I've actually already done one. And this is a deal that I did with a builder who had 30 townhomes being built. And he bought my rent-to-own course about a year ago, and he really wanted to do rent-to-owns on the places that hadn't sold, especially when the economy had changed a little bit. He's a smart guy, and he figured if he got smart, learned a bit more, so he actually did some rent-to-own deals on his inventory that he had that he was unable to sell. But mainly he's a builder, and that's his specialty, and he's really successful at it. And he came to me just recently and said, John, I loved your course. I used it. I put some deals together. I actually drove down to Red Deer to go see him and go see the deals he had done. And he told me that he was building a community of 30 townhomes, and he wanted me to do rent-to-owns on them. So he'll either sell them while they're being built, or I can do rent-to-own on them. If people come in early enough, they can actually choose the finishings of these brand new builds. And with a nice agreement with the builder, I'm able to do this, and I can make marketing for one place, which I've already done, and do it and get people and get leads. So we did one already, and this is how it works out. It works out to $5,000 up front. That's what it costs. That pays for my advertising, pays for my website, pays for my Google. So you can do that. You can, even if you're collecting leads, sell them to other rent-to-own companies. A good qualified lead is worth $1,000. So that's enough to pay for your marketing. You don't need to spend a fortune to cover the cost of marketing. Now, I also make cash flow on this deal, because in this deal, it works out quite well. So $425 a month really works out nicely. There's also some back-end money, which is $17,000. That's really appealing. So for me, I'm working with this builder, and it's a race to see who can sell them first, or who can. And so I'm going to do rent-own, and he's going to try and sell them. He knows by having a couple strategies on the same time, he'll be able to clean out his complex and not be holding any inventory. He'll be a happy builder. And this is something I've been doing, and approaching builders or people who own lots of properties and offering to use my rent-to-own system, find and screen everyone, and set up rent-to-own deals on their properties. And they usually end up making more money than if they had just sold it on their own, and I usually end up making some money for helping out. So in this case, I actually have money partners in these deals, and they're actually making 15%. That's not included in this money that's done throughout that comes to me in this deal. That's extra above and beyond. So this is a scalable deal, and I know my money partners will come to me if I offer this to them, and they don't need to qualify for a mortgage. I have special financing that my own corporation, Lion Properties, qualifies for. I just need money for the down payment. So that's actually really cool. So $22,000 is not too bad. I normally wouldn't do all this hard work for only $20,000, but I think it's worth it, because if I do 10 of these, that's actually $200,000, and that's worth the trip. I think it's worth it. I'll spend my time on that at the moment, because I think it's really worth noting that if you're working for less than $1,000 an hour, you need to change what you're doing. Sometimes can make $10,000 an hour at this. I'm really not bragging. The bread and butter is not selling courses and trying to make money that way. The bread and butter of mine is performing as many deals as quickly as possible. So here's what one person, Dale Monet, said. He said he had business experience before, but just needed a well-planned out real estate strategy. So Dale was a smart guy, and he just really needed a little bit of knowledge, and he needed to learn how to control risks, because he was not a risky guy. And I don't suggest taking big risks. You can make big returns without taking big risks, and you probably heard that before. So Dale actually is one of my students, and he's my superstar student. If Dave wants to call me his superstar student, Dale is my superstar. And when he learned how to control all the risks, he felt comfortable to go out, talk to his friends and family, and raise money, and do tenant first, and do sandwich deals, which is like a property first. That's the other name for it. And so he liked that because he didn't have to go out and feel like a sleazebag making lowball offers on properties just to try and make a little bit of money in a deal. Because you can make some money without really needing anything, and you can do quite well. So here is step number 2. Write this down. Pre-screen the clients. So you're going to be pre-screening them for income. You want to make sure you're putting them in a house that they will be able to afford. So I have a client right now that I'm trying to work with. We're looking to get them a property. They've seen a few. We just need one but I was worried with the one that they liked because it was right at the upper edges of what they might be able to achieve. I want success to be pretty much in the bag. I don't want to take risks with a risky person. So this is why we're screening them before we show them any properties and before we go meet them or really spend too much time on it. Because a lot of people are interested in doing rent to own, but a lot of people do not qualify and you don't want to work with them. They'll want to work with you and they'll tell you all kinds of things. So you may need to make sure they have enough income in order to be able to buy the house at the end of the day. If you put them in a house that's too expensive, it's doomed from the start. In order to become a CAROP member, you need to be good at pre-screening your clients. They need to have credit fixability. That means not only is their credit able to improve and become in a level where they can be mortgageable, but it needs to be done within a reasonable amount of time frame. That can be done. It can be forecasted how long it will take to repair it. And I need them to be able to do it in a 2 to 3 year time frame. You need to find out why they cannot buy and what obstacle does that tenant buyer need to overcome. I call that the roadmap to home ownership on my website. My rent-own one, rentownstrategy.com. I can't remember if I said it or not earlier, but it is what obstacle do they need to overcome, and that's what you need to work with them. That's the other reason that I think my deals have been super successful is I follow up with them every 90 days. But it could be a 20 or 30-minute conversation, maybe an hour if we're really friendly, probably if we're talking about car or something. But generally, there are short check-ins every 90 days. And I need to find out, do they have some money up front? Because they need a decent amount. And are their expectations realistic? Like I get people saying they want to do rent-own in Fort McMurray and can afford $2,000 a month. That's just not affordable to us. Or if someone wants a house in Winnipeg and can only afford $1,200 a month, it's going to be really hard to do that unless you're going to the ghetto, which I would say avoid. So is the price every month realistic? We charge fair market rents, so we're not gouging them. So there's not too many resources out there, like I said. And here's just a picture of the course that I created called Rent to Own, How to Create Win-Win Outcomes. And I did that because I always believe in doing a deal that everyone should win, everyone that touches it. If someone told you about the person, you should pay them a referral. If someone helped you along the way, they should get paid. They should do well, and the relationship should be win-win. So number 3, now this part here on your paper, I want you to draw 2 lines in like an upside down V, because there's 2 ways you're going to want to get the property. And this is how we're doing deals in up markets, and then I'm going to cover down markets. So one of 2 ways. So in an up market, this is where you'd send the person out with a realtor. This is more of the way that Dave taught in the past when he was teaching. And this is called tenant first, and it works great in an up market because you buy a property, you market higher, and you are able to sell it. So the people pick 2 or 3 of the properties, you check them out, make a deal on them, buy it, put the people in it, make your money. This is the second way. So on the other side of the V, this is the way you make money in a down market. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing other marketing. This is what I had to create in about 2014 when the market here really took a dive. A few months into it, I was really worried, and I created new videos, new marketing, new systems, and ways to find people that are motivated sellers. Okay, I can teach you guys how to do other deals with those motivated sellers even if they don't want to do a rent-to-own. So this marketing has actually turned out to be a great thing. You want to check out the property. You want to confirm the owner's expectations, because you don't necessarily need to steal the property in this scenario if they want to do a rent-to-own. If they really want to sell it today, they need to give me a big discount. I'll come buy their house fast. That is true as well, and I'll have to raise some money to be able to do that. But if I can get them to play ball and keep the mortgage on the property and move out, let someone else come in and rent it to own, then they can leave. I can send them some of the rent money. I can cover their mortgage costs, stuff like that. Let them keep the mortgage pay down because it's still their house. They are like the money partner in this situation. And then I can get the property under a contract. And if you're doing marketing, you should always be doing marketing for buyers all the time. The key is to always be looking for them, because some are better than others. And, you know, I grade them A, B, and C. And I always like to work with the A's, but you can still work with the B's. You have to work with the B's a little differently. C quality people you can't. So you should already have people already around. If you don't, because sometimes I find a property and I just don't have someone who's looking in that price range, wants a garage and it doesn't, and they're not going to take it. But you can also put up advertisements simply for that property. Go there and take some photos. I got tips in the course about photos and how to do that and what to do. After you do that, you show the people the house, and you should have a good idea that what you're showing them is what the buyer's expecting, and you're able to work something good to please the seller's expectations. That's where everyone wins. And if you can make the two of them win, that's how you will win. So you collect a deposit and you start receiving cash flows on the rents and other profit at the end. You're going to get the house seller to pay you a fee for setting this up. Here's another guy. I absolutely love Brendan and Alex. Brendan is a star student. I met him in December of 2015, chopping down a Christmas tree of all things. And he engaged me in a conversation about real estate. I said, go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He came back to me a couple weeks later. He said, I read it. I'm so interested in this. And then I said, well, there's a seminar going on. Do you want to come see it? I'm going to be there. I'm attending it. I'm not running it. You'll learn some stuff. After he did that, he said, I really want to do some deals. So Brendan and I did a couple deals together. He bought my course. He went and did 2 other rent-to-own deals on his own. And he also went and did 2 other deals that were not rent-to-own deals. And he did all that. He didn't go to that seminar until the beginning of 2016. So he did all those deals in the last 16 months. 6 deals in 16 months is a fantastic start. But Brendan follows the system. And so I'm so proud of what he's done. So this is what Brendan had to say. Everyone wins in a fair deal. Working with John was easy. After I did the marketing system for his course, John looked over the tenant buyer's profile. His network is so big that he already knew of a house that would be the perfect fit. I did all the work with the tenant buyer, and we worked out a great deal together. And best of all, used none of our own money or other people's money. We will go over the numbers of that deal. I thought maybe we skipped a slide. If not, it'll come up in a minute. We'll show Brendan's deal comes up a little later. I'll show you the money that we made using nobody else's money. So step 4, write this down. Get the client qualified. So what that means is making sure that if you're doing a sandwich deal where you're finding a property, you want to make sure that if the person who owns that property wants to sell it in 2 years, or say their mortgage is up for renewal and they'll avoid a penalty, and if that's going to be 2 years, that you put a 2-year person in there. and that it's going to be possible for that person to succeed. And you're going to have regular meetings. I do this every 90 days. I don't actually call them every 90 days if things are running smoothly. I had a client text me today that he talked to the credit coach today and just said to me that everything was fine. And I get an email from the credit coach also telling me he talked to the credit coach. So I'm not going to talk to him this quarter, but I'll talk to him more in detail next quarter because I do like knowing who's in these houses. And so it means also pulling their credit regularly, making sure they're moving in the right direction to complete their purchase on time. And that's why I only like going as long as 3 years. Because I want them to succeed. I don't want to do this for a 4 or 5 year deal. Those deals fail all the time. I don't want them. And I wouldn't recommend doing them. And the whole time that we're doing this and having very little meetings with them, we have no maintenance to do at the house. They sign a maintenance agreement. So all it is little check-ins to nudge them towards success. Just a little nudge forward every check-in. And it also there's kind of a really heartfelt reason that I also like doing this is when the people buy these houses, it feels really good because you get to know them a little bit over these years. And by following up with them, that's what makes these deals successful. So this is the deal that Brendan and Alex did with me. This was one of their 4 rent-to-own deals. They live in Fort McMurray and I'm here. So it was really easy. I had Brendan follow me around for 2 deals, and he just listened to my conversations with the people. And I was able to do that because we were together. I can come do that when I'm traveling in other cities, but it's something we need to plan out if it's something you want to do. Or if you want to come here and do that and see what goes on daily, you need to let me know. Now, they're a husband and wife team. They literally just had a baby. I think it was in January. I believe it was February. I believe she was born, little Zoe was born close to my birthday in February. But they're a husband and wife team, and this was their team, and this is the first deal. So in this deal, there was $5,000 up front. This is a deal where I had known about this house, and they had found people who could buy it. So while we were going through his coaching, we set this deal up, which actually, paid for everything of his, which is really cool. So there's $300 a month in positive cash flow. There's never tons of cash flow all the time. I do other styles of deals that can make a bit more. Rent-owns can also be really strong, but rents are just not really that high. So $300 a month is okay on this. We use none of our own money, so we're happy with kind of anything. We'll take $300 a month. And at the end, there's an $8,000 payday. So this is actually a pretty skinny deal. This deal doesn't make a lot of money, but it is $23,000 that we make out of it. And Brendan and I have worked out a deal where we're splitting that in a certain way. Brendan's doing the majority of the work with the tenant buyer because he found them, and he's the one who has a relationship with them because he had met them before this house, and he said, I met these people and they sound really good. This is their profile. And I looked at them and said, I got a house for this. You do the work showing them because you've taken the course. If you run into troubles, call me and I'll coach you. And I was there. I opened the door and he did the showing. I opened the door for him. That was it. I had a really easy time. He's going to go engage them with all the coaching and 90-day follow-ups. If he runs into a snag at any point in time, I'm going to help him out. I want this to be successful. And we have a split going on where we're both very happy with the amount of work each person's doing, what each of us has brought to the table, and the amount we're sharing. And I don't think he spent more than about 8 to 10 hours setting this up. So step 5, cashing the checks. So this is where there's the upfront money. And I built in either a finder's fee to my money partners or a fee to the property owner where they're paying for this when it's set up. I do this, and they pay, usually it's $5,000 is what I'll ask for, because that allows me to pay referrals to other people, and it does allow me to pay for my marketing. I do keep a little bit of that money, but a lot of it's used for the setup of the deal. In fact, if you're frugal, you probably set the deal up for a little bit, but I like to do deals fast, and if people are bringing me leads on houses or leads on potential rent tenant buyers, I will pay them for that, and I will use this upfront money for it. If I don't find someone, I don't ask for upfront money. If the deal doesn't go through, I don't take any upfront money. I pay only for results. Everything is results-based. The monthly cash flow is always nice. Buys my groceries, allows me to make a living. None of my vehicles are financed. They've always been cash purchases. I just don't like bad debt, but if I had more cash flow and wanted to use that capital for something that might work harder than a car loan, I might use that capital and use cash flow to pay for it. So cash flow is always nice to have. And the cash out at the end is always a big deal. Sometimes I use this cash flow to pay partners, especially if they've used the line of credit. Money partners don't want to feel like they're taking money out of their own pocket, so I'll pay their interest payment on their line of credit out of the cash flow from a deal, because it makes them feel comfortable. It lets them know things are working every month, and they're not taking money out of their pocket so that their deal will work out. So you can even write that down under cash the checks. If using someone else's line of credit, you should pay their interest. Now, you can take it out of what you were paying them at the end of the deal. So if you're going to pay someone, everyone's different. If you're paying someone 10% and they're paying 4% on their line of credit, you've paid their payments, and then you give them an extra 6% at the end of the deal. And that way they can feel good about doing it, and they're making 6% on the bank's money. Or whatever number you happen to have used. So another rent-to-own success story, Dale Monet and Tyler, they're in Calgary. They're two accountants, and they team up. They took the rent-to-own training and coaching in 2015. They've done 14 deals. They're always doing more. These guys, after 1 week of taking my course, already had their website and marketing going. I helped them along with making sure that their renter was a good person to do. We had a few that they thought looked good but weren't. After they really learned how to screen people quickly and fast and quickly, they really were off to the races. They've raised money for deals. They've also done those sandwich deals in Calgary. They're doing both of those. They've even done some sandwich deals in other markets, and I've even joint ventured with them. I trust them enough that I would use my own money in their own deals. They are truly ethical and good guys, and they know what they're doing. They picked it up really fast. Here's another deal I did in Kitimat, BC. This was a sandwich deal. There was $5,000 up front. I was able to make $300 a month in cash flow on it and $10,000 at the end in closing. I have other joint venture partners that use their capital with me for other deals, other rent-owned deals for tenant first ones. They know I do this. They happen to have other rental properties, and they want to sell them to go do other deals. And so I'm helping them sell them, and this is what I worked out. I'll end up making $25,000 on this deal. They will have their house sold, and they will still be making, I got them a price that was already $25,000 more than they wanted for this house. So I've paid for my services by getting the right person, and at the end of the deal, they'll have more years paid off the mortgage and still come out further ahead. So they knew I do this, and that's how that deal got done. It was really quickly done with a few ads, and that was it. Here's what Michael Biggs said. The fact that when it comes to rent-to-own deals, Simcoe, I believe you have no peers. Michael came up to Fort McMurray only a week and a half ago. Like I said, I just made this presentation just for you guys. And I took him to the deals I was doing. I raised money right in front of him. I showed him a lot of my business systems and some of the more private things in my business. And he said after touring my operation, he's seen firsthand that I really talk the talk and most definitely walk the walk. There are days we do 3 deals. I did deals right in front of him in a matter of hours. And, you know, he had a really good experience. And I can't wait to see what he does after learning all those things from just being around me. So this was a starter house deal in Fort McMurray. It was another sandwich deal where it had $5,000 up front. This was done at a time when Fort McMurray was really hurting. It was like it's starting to notice doing better right now. But at this time, it was really crappy and it was going lower. And it was really hard. The people who I did this rent-to-own deal with were already losing $500 a month from the lower rent than what their mortgage cost. The saving grace is at the end of the rent-to-own deal, their mortgage will be paid down to a point where they'll have an extra $40,000 at the time of sale. Or they can sell it now and have to take out a loan to pay a realtor. So this is really why it's really easy when you learn the right reasons to be able to convince someone that doing a rent-to-own is in their best interest. I did tell them I need some money to pay the credit coach each month, so I'm only getting $100 out of this. So this is really skinny, but I really wanted to help them out. I felt for them, and I knew that they would be getting decent money at the end of the deal. So I said to them, normally I charge $10,000 at the end of these deals, but I'm going to have to make up for what I would normally charge you each month. I'm going to put it at the end. I'm taking a bit of a risk. If this doesn't work out, I'm not going to get that $17,000, but I have the really, really good and A-plus tenant buyer in this house. And so I was willing to take that risk, and it just seemed really easy to set up. You know, the people were there, the house was there, they came to me at the same time. I put them together and did this deal. The best part is no money, no investors, and minimum risks. Here's another student of mine, Tim Alexander. Great information. Thanks, John. You have so much knowledge that you love to share. Keep it up. Open my own eyes to doing rent-to-own the right way. Tim has done a lot of other real estate investing in the past. He has a couple of partners, and his brother is one of them. They're a tight-knit group. They've done a lot of deals over many years, but he never knew rent-to-own. So he bought my course, and he's out there. He hasn't done a deal yet, but now he's ready to go do some deals with them. So he has access to capital, and I know Tim has a bright future in front of him. Here is another deal. This one was done in Saskatoon. I really want to share that you guys can do this anywhere. This was another sandwich deal. There was $5,000 in it. This one happened to make really good cash flow. All of these, I did 28 deals in Saskatoon last year. They came to me because there was a guy who was in his 70s. He'd worked his whole life. He built up to just about 128 properties. He wanted to start selling them, but he didn't want to have to pay taxes every year. So I did rent-owns on 28 of his properties, and he's quite happy for that. So he's going to have them sell. He is going to have to pay his taxes on them. But what that means is right now I just talked to him, and I'm about to start setting up some more rent-owns for 2 and 3 years from now, because he's going to want a few properties to sell in those years. So I found a guy who can do lots of these. Remember, I want to do a high level of volume in these deals. There's nothing wrong with making $25,000. It is a really nice payday, but I want to do lots of them. And because they're only taking 5 to 8 hours, I'm totally willing to do this. And meeting one guy who I can work with is really valuable. And you can do this too. This is not that hard. I'm not doing anything that's rocket science. I'm not doing anything that used my university degree. I have little systems that have made my life easier, and it's really possible to be able to live the life that you deserve. Because you can have a car. For me, it's a car, but you might want to travel. I love that too. Money is nice. It's nice to do the right things. I sponsor kids programs in my communities. I don't have kids, but I know the people in my rent-own houses, most of them do. And so that's how I give back in other ways. I'm a sucker for saying yes to charity. You're welcome to solicit me if you get to know me. I do like helping a good cause, but you know, there's only so much to go around too, and I do things in a big way. I've been told I should talk more about the things I give back. I've always done it very quietly in the past. So in this course, I just want to share with you guys a little bit about what goes on in details in the rent-to-own, how to create win-win outcomes. So there's a total of 7 modules, and in it, with the course, you're going to be able to save a lot of time and money. Because when I was originally starting out with my first rent-to-own deals, they took me about 20 to 30 hours before they would be set up and complete. And now I'm doing them in about 5 to 8, and by partnering with other people and getting some other people to do work, and you know, if you're trained in this, I'm willing to work with you and joint venture with other people who are just like Brendan, who show me that they're the elite student that is the go-getter. I'm willing to do that, and that will save me time, allow me to spend 1 or 2 hours on each deal by using my system, having someone else do some of the work, and it's really a quick and easy process. It does not take time. This is how you make $1,000 an hour and up. And it's a system. It's repeatable. I'm doing the same thing over and over, and it creates financial freedom. And I really want there to be more people who know how to fish and can feed themselves, feed the world. And of course, there's a competitive advantage. I've spent a long time before I became the president of CareOp. You can also have a competitive advantage if you can learn how to use these systems and create the persona. All of that is detailed in the course. So here, this is going to be your soon-to-be favorite go-to resource for all of your rent-to-own education. You're going to discover some proven strategies that are virtually guaranteed to work in today's marketplace. You're going to generate outstanding cash flow on a monthly basis, and you're going to know exactly how to structure your rent-to-own deals to yield the highest profits. I've learned how to make more in a deal and even be able to pay other people more and continue to meet a high rate of return for the people that I borrow from, and return that money timely and the right amount, and sometimes even early if you structure it right. It's all about planning. So normally the course is $19.97. In it, there's a complete comprehensive library with all the necessary documents to be able to invest in real estate profitably. You can do a rent-to-own with only 2 agreements, a lease and then the option to purchase, which outlines all the details for the sale. But I'll tell you right now, you need about 5 of them, maybe even a 6th, depending on how the deal is. If it's a fixer-upper, which you got to be careful with, there's another different contract. But it's a very simplified, they're very simple contracts that allow you to fill them out quickly. They're easy to understand. I'll explain in the videos how to fill them out, what to change on them, what details go in them, and make it really simple. And this is going to save you lawyer time. I've spent over $10,000 to have these agreements made, and I get them reviewed regularly, and I share those updates with people who have taken my course because I want everyone else doing rent-to-own the right way. Here's something else that I'm working on that I'm going to send to you guys. This is something brand new that I've been working on. I love stretching my creative side because the rent-to-owns are a system, and they're exciting and fun, but it's so repeatable, and I've done it so many times that I try and challenge myself. So I created this brand new financial freedom blueprint, and it's actually 9 steps that'll take you from anywhere you are financially to no matter how wealthy you want to be. And based on the answers throughout this blueprint that you fill out, you're going to determine what type of person you are, whether you should be building a business, whether you should be doing real estate, what you should be doing that'll be more attuned to the type of person you are, so you can be happy getting where you want to get. And I've really taken notes for about 12 years in notebooks, and I documented everything I was doing to get where I was at. I own multiple businesses, commercial buildings. I've done over 140 deals total overall. It's always counting, climbing higher and higher. And this is a blueprint that if you do it, and I went back to my old notes, if you do it, you will also be able to achieve whatever you want. Whatever you put as your goal, we reverse engineer how to get there, and then you have your step by step by step, you have your path. So I think this is really powerful. It's not finished yet. I've written the entire blueprint, but I'm putting the graphics on it and polishing it up. So I will give this out as well when you get the course, but just give me a little bit of patience. Give me about 2 to 3 weeks to just polish it up. Also, you're going to get my stamp of approval for whatever deal you're doing. So when you go out and use the system and get your own leads, I'm going to help you out with screening the applicants, making sure they're the right person. I will recommend suggestions so that you will be able to make more money just from one of those suggestions on the same deal than the course cost you. That's what happened to Brendan. In a matter of months, he received everything back that he had put into it and is making more. And I love seeing it. And you can always feel confident because I'm there to guide you along. We're there to make sure it's the right person, the right house, the deal is right, the numbers make sense. And so I would put a priceless value on that because that's where real learning happens because you're really doing it. So you're going to save thousands of dollars from the learning curve because I've done things throughout all those deals that I've learned how to do better, and I will share all of that with you. It's a lot. So here's what everything works out to. This is like what this would be valued at if it was retail. And you guys know there's going to be a deal because Dave told me that a lot of people already had his rent-own course and might want to learn from mine because there is differences in mine and there's things I teach that are a little different, and Dave's is no longer offered. So all the value that's in here, I'm including a rent-to-own solution to home ownership book. One of the books that I wrote, I'm going to include it. I'm going to include the $2,000 online course where all the videos are, the contracts are, the templates are. That's where all 7 modules are. That's all part of that online university. I've spent over $10,000 on that, and I'm going to continue updating them and sharing the updates. So that's another way that you can save money by getting the course, and then I'll share those agreements with you. You'll get the blueprint that I said is not quite ready yet, but just give me a little bit of patience. I'm going to have it for you. The blueprint could very well sell for a lot more in the future. I think $399 is cheap for it, but we'll see. I'd like to test it out on a few people, and so I'd like you guys to give me some feedback when you get it. You'll get my stamp of approval deal review. You'll also get the rapid results, quick start call, and this is where I really want to be truthful about per hour. When you make money doing deals and then you turn it back to a per hour and you want to compare it to per hour, I regularly will make at least $1,000 an hour. And I'm not saying that to brag. There's work and things to do, and not every deal works out, or not every deal will pay as much as you thought in reality when it actually happens. But this is for about a 20 to 30 minute call where I will help you get started, whatever's holding you back, and I'll connect you to website people. I have resources and other people you can use, and how you can make your marketing for cheap and make it look professional. It's all in the course. But during this call is where we can really hone in on other things that might be holding you back. All of this adds up to a $12,908 value. It's a real world value for a lot of those things. I'm not going to be doing that. I think you guys know that most people don't pay that. I've paid that for coaching programs in the past, and it's been worth it. But for you guys, it's only $19.97. So that's everything that you saw, $19.97, all the additional things. But you know what? I got some special pricing because that one bonus is not ready yet. And I kind of feel bad. So only for a limited time, I'm going to do $9.97 for everything. Everything. And I'm also going to give you my personal 100% money back guarantee. If you take action now and you try the system, and if in the next 90 days, if you aren't overwhelmed with how easy it is to use the system and put a deal together, all you have to do is simply tell me. I'm not selling all these courses to be able to make a bunch of money off you guys. I want people who are trained in other cities who I can work together with. And if you want to not work with me and do your own deals, that's great. But you know what? I know once you try it, you're not going to bother asking for a refund. But I have no problem giving it back to you. It is not an issue. I know this works, and I have a lot of successful people who've gone through the program. But for those for tonight, if you're willing to put it down, you say, I know this is right for me. I want this course. I'm going to buy it. I want to learn from John. I'm going to include a little mini course that I created a while ago called Mortgage Partners and Money Qualifiers. It's a complete and comprehensive system designed to get money and financing now. I sell it for $1,000. I'm going to include that for you guys. This is the system that I use to scale my real estate empire. This is if you want to work with money partners and go get more places, this is for you. The same contracts that I personally use in my business when I'm even doing not rent-to-own deals. That Mexico development, this is the stuff that I did to teach you. That was a $4.3 million deal. And I've raised over $22 million. It's always growing more. Everything you need to have multiple partners in a single deal is still in there. I used to do deals $10,000 at a time. I will autograph you a copy of my new book, and I will mail it to you. If you want it somewhere, sent somewhere else or autographed somewhere else, I will do that. And as well, you'll also get that strategy session with me. Now, I said it was 20 to 30 minutes. We can go as long as an hour, but I really can't be just giving my time away that way all the time. So I'm only offering that to the people who actually pick this up now. If you're an action taker, I'll reward you with more time because I want to get to know you more. If you wait till a week from now or 3 days from now, I'll still call you for 20 minutes. We'll go over what's holding you back. But truthfully, I do have things to get to, and I need to work on high-level activities. But if you want to work on this, I want to be your friend. And in that call, we're going to be able to get you your first deal right away, and you'll be able to be smiling with your successful rent-to-own deal, and you'll probably want to do another one right away. So realistically, that hour is worth $1,000. I'm selling my time cheap at that price. So rent-to-own, creating win-win outcomes for Canadians. There's the training university, which is worth $2,000. There's the legal form and library and paperwork. That's at least $10,000 or more. There's John's Financial Freedom Blueprint. That'll be coming later. That's why you're getting such a smoking deal. John's my quick start call, as well as my money partners and mortgage qualifiers mini course. That sells for $1,000 on its own. The autographed copy of my book. Now, because of my autograph, it's now worth $50 instead of $20. But you get that as well as that personal strategy session with me. We can talk about other deals too during that time if you want to talk about something other than a rent-to-own. That's the time to bring it up. So the total value of that's like over $14,000. And you're able to get it for low. This is because Dave's always been so good to me, and I love the people that Dave interacts with. I know you guys are good people. I know a few of you as well. $997. Very cheap. This is as accessible as I can make it. So to get your own, this is actually a limited time offer, but in order to be able to get your own digital course as well as your copy of the book and all the bonuses, you need to get it now. If you don't get it now, you're not going to get the bonuses like the extra time, the mortgage partner, money qualifiers. Those I just cannot offer forever, but I can offer them for a very limited time for you guys. And this is only open to you guys. I've never put this offer out to anyone before. It's never been this good before. So I've sold this package for $2,500 and $3,000 before. So this $1,000 with all the bonuses has never been done. So just go to the website, winwinrent2own.com. Winwinrent2own.com is the way to do it. So I got a few questions here. I got Norm. He said, I have all of Dave's books. Is this different? Yes, this is different. I took the ABCs of what Dave was teaching. In the last 3 months last year, in 3 months alone, I did more deals than Dave did. And I've learned how to scale these and do more of these and do them easier than ever before. So this is actually very different than Dave's stuff. That's why he brought me on. We talked about this when I created a course. He said, is it going to be very different from his? I said, Dave, I'm rock and rolling in ways that you don't even know about. And I've shared how it's done. He loves it. Norm has another question that I see. How do you leverage these properties at what loan to value? Can you demonstrate an example? I would. It would have to be at another night during another presentation. He says, what happens in a down market if the property doesn't appraise high enough at the end of 3 years? The rent-owned buyer won't be able to get enough mortgage money. Well, what happens is in a down market, if we don't really, remember, if we're doing a sandwich deal in a down market, I'm not buying places. I have not bought a place in Fort McMurray since the downturn in 2014. I stopped. And I started focusing on only sandwich deals because I'm not risking someone that I know is money, and I can solve someone who's a property owner's problem and help them sell it at the end of the day. So what we do is we pretty much make the property the price of where the market's at today. If it goes down a little bit more, it's okay. There are tips and tricks which are in the course about how to close in all these different situations. So you still can close on the property if the price is a little bit off. If it's a lot off, something's gone wrong. It was not set up right. If it's a little off, it's still okay. If the market stays flat, it's still okay because it's priced right. And at the end of the deal, if the market's appreciated and it's no longer a down market, like it's changed during the 3 years, then the person who's buying it is going to be getting a really good deal. The seller already agreed that that was a fair price. The buyers agreed that that's a fair price because they're locking in today's price and they probably know it's low. So he says here, can we talk about raising investor capital? How do you get your money partners? Well, I would love to talk that with you in detail. That is in the Money Partners and Mortgages mini course. I get asked that question a lot, so I made that mini course so that I didn't have to answer it every time. But it ultimately comes down to how you dress, whether people like, know, and trust you. And there certainly is a certain way. I have a 60-minute sit-down presentation that raises money from people almost all the time. And I know, and I teach tricks where you know if someone has money or not, and whether or not it's worth even meeting with them. Any other questions? Can you tell us a bit about how you finance your deals? Well, Frank, I do RSP mortgages just like Paul Blackier taught me how to do. I've done millions of dollars of them. I use mortgages in my name. I get partners to get mortgages. All of those are covered in that Money Partners and Mortgages course. I'm new to rent to own, Michelle says. Do you own the house in your name? And if so, how do you manage the new rules for home ownership over a short period of time? Well, you always do need to manage the new rules. That's where the association CAROP, CAROP.ca, I mean, they are a nonprofit. It's cheap to join, and there's updates on what you should be doing with your rent-to-own deals. If you get the course and you're doing a deal, I want your deal to work out. Ultimately, I want myself and the people who are doing deals that have learned from me to be doing them right and having them working out. So I'll be helping you a little bit during email support if you're setting up a rent-to-own deal. And if the market changes, we'll have a conversation about how your rent-to-own deal should change. Like when the new rules came out and homes over $500,000, you needed 10% down. That was about 1.5 years ago that happened. And when that happened, I had to go to all my properties that were over $500,000. It's just, that's the Fort McMurray market, and a lot of my deals are here. and my deal's over $500,000, I had to adjust how much money they were putting into their forced savings account for their option to purchase. That means the down payment they need, the requirements would be higher. So I had to go to them and say, I need you to pay an extra $100 a month. I need you to pay an extra $250 a month. Whatever the shortfall was, we had to go adjust that. So at the end of time, they could still close on time. And so if something like that's going on, you can just ask me, and there is a solution to everything falling apart. There's a solution to make it successful. Now, what else do we have? I believe that is most of the questions. Have you done deals in Vancouver? No, Graham, I have not. I have not done it yet. So I think Vancouver is also an expensive market. I am looking at doing them in some of the Chilliwack area, the Abbotsford area. I think there are good places to do it. I think Mentone gets really hard when the house price is over $1 million because the mortgage rules change. Well, how much will I make on 93 deals last year? Well, I know that overall it's going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. I have people to pay out of that. I have referrals. I have money partners. I have mortgage partners. I believe everyone who touches a deal should get paid, and it should be worth their while. I get what's left over. So 93 deals is a lot of deals, but I do have to pay other people, and I do believe in sharing the wealth. I only keep people on my team who are competent, well-trained, have experience. That's something that could be you if you know what to do, and I'm willing to spend the time to coach and train you. I will gladly put my system, if you don't create your own system, this course will teach you how to create your own system to bring all your own leads in and everything you need. But if you don't want to create your own system and you're willing to go out there, I've got leads that you can go work on, and we can split deals. So there's lots of ways to just get back the simple cost of the course, whether you want to do it on your own with a little bit of coaching, or whether you want to actually do it with me on a real live deal, and we're both working on it. And if we're sharing the work in a good way, I'm sure we can find a good way to compensate. So it's worth having that discussion. With all the money that I've raised, I've always compensated people well. I have no problem raising money. And it's mostly because people are paid well and it works. Because we're doing the same thing. It's a system and it works. So I will keep a little bit of the money from the 93 deals privately, but when those do close out, you may see me with a Ferrari, okay? I believe that would be an okay time, but until then, there's more building to do. So the names of my star students, Graham said. So the names are Dale Monette, Dale Monette. There is Brendan Urin, as well as Brendan Urin. Here is the website. There are some actual testimonials. So if everyone is able to see the website, winwinrenttoown.com. There's some videos of the students, and it's got their names, and I even have their websites on there if you want to check out what the students' websites look like, because they've either designed them themselves or they've paid someone to do it. And in the course, I even give names of places to people who can. If you got a friend who does websites, use them. Like whoever does it, doesn't matter whether it's yourself or someone else, or how much you pay for it, doesn't matter, but it does need to look right. The students' websites are at winwinrenttoown.com at the very bottom of the page. And you can also see some of their testimonials that they've given me. What is the max value of a house you do a rent to own on? Well, I would stay below the $1 million mark. The highest value of a house that I did rent to own on was an $850,000 house in Fort McMurray. things were booming at the time, so I was able to sell it shortly later for $930,000. So we paid over 50 grand off the mortgage on that one, marked the house up by about $80,000, and collected some phenomenal cash flow on it. And I think it may be one of the most expensive rent-owned deals done in Canada, because when you have houses that are over $1 million, people need 20% down. And those are like luxury houses. And that's not, and a big luxury $1 million plus house is not usually a good choice for a first property, because people who are doing rent to own, it's usually done on their first property. If they're going to go buy $1 million house, they should just save up more money. And you can do this on cheap. I've done rent to own on homes as cheap as like 100 grand. One of those Saskatoon houses, I think it was 105 grand. That I have 2 Saskatoon houses with Brendan, because he still had his job and he quit it. And one of those houses was like really cheap. He got the mortgage for it. That was one of the ways he partnered with me. And that was before he took my course. So I did that, and then he bought my course. He wanted to learn more, and then went and did his own deals. I loved working with Brendan because him and Alex had their baby, and she's self-employed, and he had a good city job, and is a very responsible guy. He's like a supervisor. And so when they had their baby in around January, Brendan took his maternity leave, and he was going to take it for a short period of time, then go back to work. But he knew for every deal he did, he extended his mat leave by 2 more months. And so Brendan's goal was to do enough deals to be able to use his full mat leave and have family time. And so Brendan actually did that. That's why he was so motivated to do that. That's why Brendan did 6 deals in just over a year. But it was really cool. So I like Brendan and Alex. They're really cool people. We've gotten to know each other. I saw him last night. What did we talk about? Well, we talked about some of the fun things we have in common, but we talked about business as well. I said, hey, what houses do you have, Brendan? What houses have you found from your marketing? He bought the course, and he's doing the same marketing I'm doing, just in his own style. So it looks a little different. He's offering the same service. And even though I do tons of deals in town, Brendan's getting lots of leads all the time too. And so I said, what houses do you have? I got people coming through my system who are buyers right now, and I have some really nice buyers. Who do you have that has houses? And he says, yeah, I'm still working on getting some more houses. Being back to working with the baby is tough, but I'm still working on it. I don't have as much as when I was on mat leave and doing this more full time. So that might slow him down a little bit, but he's still working on it. So that's what we talk about. Is there a reason for us to do a deal together? Do we each have something of value that we bring to the table? Then we can start splitting some of those bigger paydays and sharing. And that's how things happen. It's by sharing and making things win-win. That's how I do my business. I don't rip anyone off. I don't want a reputation for that. And it's not how I deal things. If you don't like the course, just ask for your money back. I'm not a crook. If you call me that, I'll do whatever it takes to change it. I'd rather give you your money back than deal with a basket case. I'll be honest. I'll give you your money back, give you no phone calls, because I don't want to spend time with someone who doesn't want to do it. But if they're doing it, I want to spend time with you. I want you to be successful. And if you want to do it together, we'll start talking on a regular basis if you want to be the elite student who's actually doing it. So go to winwinrentown.com. We're going to shut the webinar down. We've gone a little bit over. I really wanted to answer everyone's questions, but I know it's getting late and we do all have to call it a night. winwinrentown.com. If you want the bonuses, you need to get it now. So take action. I'll welcome you to the course. I'll send you the autograph book, and we'll set up a time for that call. See you guys later, and have a good night.